Okay, test, test. All right. If you want to go ahead and find a seat, you can. My name is Micah Heiser. I'm the Executive Director at the Nebraska Prairie Museum. We've got a really good turnout for today's program. And that just is special because the Country Club is very special to all of us. We all have our own memories there. So today's program is going to be speaker Samuel Banzhaf. He is our curator here at the Nebraska Prairie Museum. This is now going into his second year here and already been doing a great job. This program coincides with the celebration of the 100th anniversary for the current golf course. So Sam's going to go more into that. With that, we've wonderfully partnered with the Country Club, and we have, I need to come up with a better name with it. So if you come up after today's program with a better name, I nicknamed it a monolith or a pillar or something like that. But it's the 100th anniversary, so each panel kind of talks about that. That'll be over at the Country Club, so that'll be there for over the summer season and that, so you'll have to check it out. If at any point you need some water, coffee, cookies, that's available, as well as our restrooms that are in the front. As always, if you'd like to help support the Nebraska Prairie Museum and our programming, talk to me afterwards. Without that, I'll hand it over to Sam.
Thank you, Micah. All right, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sam Banzhaf. I'm the curator here at the Nebraska Prairie Museum. I've been here for just over a year now. And this was a really special project for me because I absolutely love golf. I've been doing it since I was about 5 years old. Played through high school, played in college. Do yourself a favor, do not look up my scores in college. But yeah, this is a really cool experience for me. I believe it was Sandy from the golf course. She came up to me first and was telling me about, we've got this 100th anniversary coming up. She had done some research herself, and she had presented the idea to me. So really grateful for her help, as well as like Tim Malm, the rest of the golf course board. So if you see them afterwards, make sure you thank them for helping us put all of this together. So, talking about the history of broad golf in Holdrege, you have to start back all the way in 1898. So the Holdrege Country Club, as we know it, was not the first golf course in town. The first course was actually located in the same area as the current Dairy Queen and Cobblestone Inn, so sort of between 11th Street and 7th Street, and then it was also bordered by Burlington, and I believe, was that Tilden? I believe so. All right. And it was established by a grain merchant that came over from Chicago in 1898. He was known as a bit of a golfer himself before he came here, and then he got a lot of other people involved with the course. It closed due to drought in 1910, so you had about 12 years there where it was initially going. And then it just kind of sat there for a while, and then it got up and running again around 1920 to 1924. And some of the other people who were really into golf, whether it be actually providing funding for the course at this time or just really big enthusiasts in town, were some people like George and Lewis Titus, Tom and George Hufford, D.W. Hilsebeck, C.W. McConaughey, Frank and George Johnson. So you've got a lot of big names in the community that were part of this. It was originally pasture ground, and Hobbs himself served as the course architect and the course pro for his duration here. And golf actually became so popular in Holdrege at the time that Frank Johnson actually persuaded local businesses to close at 6 p.m. instead of 8 p.m. so they could get more golf in. And during the comeback of the course in 1920, Harold Helmfelt, Art Swanson, and Fred Brown shared the cost of leasing the ground from the Lincoln Land Company. And you can kind of see how they owned the land all the way around here. It actually goes in a giant square around sort of the middle of Holdrege there. And that was a $75 a year lease at the time. And for those of you who can't really see it up there, it's kind of in this blue square where we're talking right here. And there are some conflicting articles that I've come across. Some of them say that it was an L shape, and I can sort of wonder when they brought it back, if they had to rearrange the course a little bit, and then it would have went further over the top there. So kind of getting into the establishment of the actual Holdrege Country Club as we know it today. The search for the new permanent home started in 1924. Around this time, the city of Holdrege was looking at that land and they said, hey, we want to develop this, we want to put houses down, we want to put a school down. I believe it was the Washington School that was later put on that plot there. The old golf course continued operation through 1924 until its lease ran out in the spring of 1925. And a 50-acre plot was purchased by a collective for prospective members at a total cost of $7,500 in 1924. And each member bought a $100 share to cover the cost of the course. The old golf course, the farmland was reported to have been owned by Claude Porter. He was a local businessman. If you guys know, like the Abramson Appliance Building, he worked out of there, and he was a cigar and candy wholesale seller. But he also owned a bunch of land throughout town. Holdrege Golf Course was set to open April 1st of 1925. Now, we don't really have a concrete thing that says that they did open April 1st. What ended up happening was in the Citizen, you have an article in February of 1925 saying that they were planning to open April 1st. March 26th of 1925, there's just a tiny little update on the front page that says that work is progressing rapidly at the golf course and it's going to be a really nice golf course when it's finished. I would hope that work is progressing rapidly if they were set to open within a week. And then there is no mention that I have found so far in the newspaper between March 26th and August 6th. And they were talking about an event, kind of like a picnic that they had out at the golf course for all the members. And I had to laugh. One of the things that they mentioned was one of the members got gifted a bunch of golf balls because they said he was the most likely to lose them in the creek. And the clubhouse that you see here was built by 1926, so it took a little bit longer to get the clubhouse up and running, but they worked throughout the fall of 24, winter of 24, into the spring of 25 to get that up and running. And the green fees were also established in 1930, so they didn't actually have green fees until 1930. And part of the reason for that was in order to be a member, in order to play on the course initially, you had to be a stakeholder. So those $100 shares that I had mentioned, you actually had to buy stake in the course in order to play on the course. So these are some of those early founders that we talked about. As you can see, you've got C.W. McConaughey, namesake for Lake McConaughey. You've got George Johnson, namesake for Johnson Lake. Thomas Hufford, for those of you who have been to the new Coal and Feed in town, they got the name for that from his business that was originally at that address. He was the original Coal and Feed guy. You've got Claude Norris, and he was a pharmacist in town. And this is actually his stock certificate up there for the Holdrege Country Club. You've got Lewis B. Titus, one of the many Tituses that have been part of the golf course, involved with the First State Bank. You've got Frank Johnson, prominent businessman, and then there's Claude Porter, who was the one that they bought the pasture from. So what did the course originally look like? So this is one of the only photos I've found so far that really show the sand greens as they were. And the course originally featured these sand greens. They had them until 1960, and that's when they replaced the sand greens with grass greens, and that was for a total of about $5,000 at the time. There was landscaping that was performed before the course opened, but it took several years to get the greenery up and going. So, like you can see here, this would be on hole 5 looking out to the west. You've got the clubhouse out there in the distance. If you went that way, that's where the veterinary hospital and all that is. But you can see there's almost no trees there other than a few saplings that have been planted. The 9-hole layout was essentially the same as today. They have lengthened it through the years. Hole 5 curves to the left now, whereas it originally just went straight, stuff like that. Just adding a few yards here and there. And this is also crossing hole 5. This is actually looking out to the east, probably more northeast. So the original clubhouse went through several changes throughout the years. If you look at, get back to where I was. Not that one. Fooled by the clubhouse. There we go. I'm a professional. So the first thing that they did was they added a screened porch in 1930. Then they added a kitchen in 1932. They added a locker room in 1936. They added a ballroom on the north side in 1947. And an interesting bit about that I found is the building that they used for that is actually one of the buildings out of Camp Atlanta. Camp Atlanta had closed in 1946, and many of the buildings made their way around the area and were used for a whole number of purposes, but that's where that ended up. And then they added a second locker room in 1955. And the last string of major renovations was in 1961. They did a bunch of stuff then. They enclosed the southeast screen porches, enlarged the lounge area, changed the main entrance into a locker room, and created a new bar space in there as well. And inside the old clubhouse, because I know a bunch of us here probably haven't seen it, a bunch of us may have, but there's people around my age that never did. So this is a picture of a tournament that they had in 1957. Interesting thing about the Holdrege Country Club is women were not originally permitted to play on the course. They were involved with stuff on the course from the beginning, but when it came to their events, they did a lot of like playing cards and stuff like that. And they eventually started letting women on about 10 years after they originally started the course, but they didn't really have enough women to start doing tournaments until 1952 was actually the first women's tournament that they had there. And then you see this one here is 1957. That situation kind of progressed throughout the years, and even up to a couple decades ago, it was to the point where women weren't allowed at the course on certain days, at certain times, and so on and so forth. But that's since been resolved, and we're real lucky to have the women golfers that we do on the Holdrege Golf Course. So here's another shot from inside the interior. This portion would be around the center. They sort of built out to the north whenever they built on, and that would be kind of in the center of the clubhouse. There's just another shot from inside, and there's another with the bar in the background. And the new clubhouse that we have now actually came around in the mid-1970s. So at this point, membership was growing. It was approximately 250 members at the time, and they believed that they would have 300 members in no time. So because of this growth, Holdrege Country Club began looking for ways to expand. This resulted in the construction of the new clubhouse and eventually the addition of the back nine, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And it was all done by an architect out of Colorado named L. Bruce Keenan, and he designed the current clubhouse in early 1975. It was designed with enough amenities for 400 people, and the construction began in the fall of '75 and was finished in November of 1976. And it was actually opened in 1977. They finished there in '76, but they held their grand opening ceremony in 1977. That was February 11th, and it featured a buffet and a dance. So a fun time for everybody. At the time of opening, the clubhouse was split between golf and dining. So I've got this over on the monolith over there, so it's a little bit easier to see. But you've got the lower floor plan, and north is this way. But you'd have your pro shop down there, you'd have your locker rooms in the bottom, and then up top you'd have like your restaurant and all of that stuff up there. So it was kind of separated into the two distinct things that the golf course was offering. So they've also done plenty of remodeling, even in recent years. So on the left, this is one of the first remodelings that I have pictures of. And this would be the lower level in the clubhouse. So you can kind of see the pro shop and the lounge area down there. And up here in the top in the middle, that is the famous fireplace. They actually auctioned off that table for like reservations for having your spot reserved throughout the year at different events. And if I remember right, one of the auctions that was posted in the paper, they said it was already up to a couple $100 that people were bidding on that table for. But that's since been remodeled, and thanks to the remodeling that's going on right now, that picture is out of date by about 4 days. So it does look a little bit different here on the bottom. They still have the TV here, but they've kind of redone the back, and it's sort of a long, thin fireplace at this point. And then they've also redone that entire top area, and they've also filled in around the lower layers. The basement is still there, but it's not accessible from the outside like it was originally. So, going on to adding the back nine. So, the area that was used for the back nine was purchased in 1963. It was a total of 70 acres, and it was purchased for $28,000. For those of you who are good at math, that's $400 an acre. And I looked just today. There's a small plot of land for a house to go on just south of the golf course right now. It's a quarter of an acre for $38,000. So a little bit of a price difference there. That land was used for a driving range for several years. It was open. They didn't really do anything with it for a while. The country club began accumulating funds in the early 1980s to add the back nine to the course. The course sold some of the land in order to accumulate part of this funding. It's my understanding that that's where a bunch of houses sprung up out there. The Landscapes Unlimited out of Lincoln actually were hired to build the additional holes. The cost was roughly $275,000 at the time. And they went around to a couple different courses in the area to kind of get inspiration for the course. One of them that I remember is Hayes, and I remember that because that's where my brother's going right now. The back nine was opened in 1986 at a length of 3,070 yards. Just like the front nine, it's gone through a couple changes throughout the years. It's a little bit longer now. But you kind of get a real dichotomy there between the new and the old. You've got the front, which is a little bit shorter, but it's a lot tighter with the trees and the water and everything. And the back nine is designed to be a lot more open, but it's a little bit longer than the front nine. As far as the tournaments and trophies that they have at Holdrege Country Club, one of them is the Men's Club Championship, and the Lou Titus Memorial Trophy is awarded for that. And I did the math on this the other day. I went through all of the winners for it, and of the 99 Men's Club Championships at Holdrege Country Club since 1926, 5 individual last names are responsible for 53 of those wins. And because I know people will be interested, the winningest family is the Hillsabacks between Hale, Bruce, Frank, and Frank Jr. They have 16 championships between the 4 of them. The Trails are in second with 14. That's Jim and Greg Trail. The Titus family, between Liscombe Titus, who's actually the first winner, Joe Titus and Lewis Titus, are actually tied with C.J. Farber by himself, and they both have 8. The winningest individuals are Greg Trail with 9, followed by C.J. Farber with 8, and Brad Sturgis with 7. So we've got some good golfers around here. The Women's Club Championship has the Ann H. McClimate Trophy. And the Southwest Open has the Hale Hilsebeck Memorial Trophy and the R.P. Anderson Trophy. The reason I don't have the stats for those is we don't have a comprehensive list anywhere of the winners of those tournaments. I did actually find the women's tournaments results from 52 to 73, I believe. But after that, it's lost somewhere. So if anybody has like names for those throughout the years, we'd love to have them. So other events that were held at Holdrege Country Club, you had a lot of stuff that went on out there. You had fashion shows, you had dinners, Easter egg hunts, you had some events with musical entertainment, and you kind of see that here. You've got your fashion shows represented over here. You've got an Easter egg hunt that's happening over there. And this picture, you can also see there's a Rotary banner there. For many years, Rotary International held their meetings there for Holdrege. And then moving on to junior golf, there's a really rich history of junior golf at Holdrege Country Club. So instructors and organizers such as Anna Marie Hainich, Paula Nepper, Darlene and Jerry Falcon, and others have been instrumental in getting a lot of the young golfers going in Holdrege. You have a bunch of examples here of some of the junior golf that happened throughout the years. This picture on the top I actually got just the other day from Ted Titus, and I was really happy to get that picture because the furthest back picture I had was about 1980s-ish for junior golf. So again, if you have any extra information for us, we'd love to have that. And one of the other things that I absolutely loved when I started looking into the junior golf aspect of it is this article right here in the paper. Those of you who have been around Holdrege for a while will know that we have a lot of flooding that happens semi-reliably, I should say. And one of the things that really got me was the first line in this article that said, although the front nine of Holdrege Country Club was busy trying to emulate the North Park Lake, the 9 more recently added greens were high and dry enough to allow 65 young golfers to participate in this year's first National Bank Junior Golfers Tournament. So you got a few things in there. You've got the wonderful humor of our local newspapers, but you also see 65 junior golfers. There's a lot of people that get their introduction to golf through junior golf, so those are really valuable programs for us to have at any golf course. And then, of course, looking at high school golf. You can't talk about Holdrege Country Club without talking about the Holdrege High School golf team. So they've served as the home of the Holdrege Dusters boys and girls golf teams throughout their existence. And they were also briefly the home for Loomis as well. It's my understanding that Loomis co-opted with Holdrege for a couple of years, then they got their own team and they were still at Holdrege for a couple of years, and then they moved over to the Bertrand course later on. And you have 9 team state championships with 6 individual champions represented across Holdrege golf. You've got 5 team runner-up finishes along with 6 individual runner-up. And you had a really dominant stretch in the 90s. If you come and look at this stuff up here, most of this stuff is representative of the 90s. You had the Holdrege High School boys bringing home 2 state championships back-to-back with Ted Titus and Eric Christensen finishing as individual runners-up in 92 and 93. The girls team finished first as a team 4 times and runners-up 3 times, all within a 7-year stretch from 92 to 98. The girls team also saw Aaron Christensen finish as an individual champion in 95 and Kelly Benjamin finishing as runner-up in 98. You also have 29 team conference championships for the Holdrege golf teams. And an interesting fact, the boys Class B state tournament was actually held at Holdrege Country Club in 1988. And there's a bit of a story behind that. So I was talking with Terry Shield the other day. He was the coach for most of these teams. And he was telling me that they were originally supposed to have a tournament out in the Panhandle, and they had terrible weather out there. They weren't able to play the first 2 days, and they wanted to try to play after that, set up a date within a couple weeks after that. But of course, with it being spring, everybody's got graduation and other stuff that they've got to do. So Terry Shields said that he put his hand up in the coaches meeting and said, well, I could call down to Holdrege Country Club and see if they want to host it. And they voted to do that, apparently much to the disapproval of the course pro at the course it was supposed to be at, as well as the golf coach for that team that had that as their home course. But they brought it out to have at Holdrege Country Club, and that actually resulted in J.D. Johnson placing 5th during that tournament at his home course. So that basically concludes what I have. If we want to open it up to questions.